in some interested parties of the public to participate. At the bottom of the page, you will find the email address that you can use for questions. This is the email I referred to previously. And we are monitoring that. I know there's a few people that have hopped on. We are monitoring this email address. Sorry. And we'll try and mute those. Please mute your audio. Okay. All right. I'm sorry about that. I'm hearing audio delayed for a little bit, so I apologize for that. Some of the growing pains. So the email address is at the bottom there. That's what you can email. So moving on here, first we're going to discuss where we sit in the adjudication process. We won't do a deep dive on the adjudication process. This was covered in the initial public meeting and is available on our website or on the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, which is Utah Division of Water Right. Each of these subdivisions were initiated last summer and fall. Next, we will review what a list of unclaimed rights looks like and how to use it, and see if you're affected by this list. Third, we'll talk about where you can access this list if you have not already accessed it. Instructions are also included in the notice that you received. And fourth, we will talk about the anticipated timeline. And then finally, we'll address any questions that we can. And again, we're somewhat limited by the technology here. If we need to, we'll defer some of these questions to a later time, and we're happy to sit down with you. And if you'll give me a minute, I'm going to mute someone. I wonder what's going on here. Excuse me just 1 minute. I'm getting some feedback, and I guess it's that. Okay, I apologize. Some of the technical difficulties we're struggling with. Okay, let's talk about the adjudication process. Some of the overarching goals that we have with adjudication are number one, to bring all the claims onto the permanent record, and number two, to bring clarity to water rights, and then three, to remove or reduce water rights that are no longer in use. The adjudication process is how the state accomplishes these goals. And remember, this is a judicial process, and it's important to remember that as this instructs us as to what to do if a right of yours is on the list of unclaimed rights. So where are we? This is a long-running process that began in 1944. Last summer and fall, all of the water rights of record and all of the property owners were summoned and noticed, and notice was given to file water users claims. 90 days was provided to submit these claims. This period has passed in each of these 4 subdivisions that we're in the process, and we're in the process of reviewing these claims. We've recently published the list of unclaimed rights in these 4 subdivisions. Now, what is that? This requires a little bit of explanation. The state engineer's office maintains records for thousands and thousands of water rights throughout the state, and these are all the rights of record. If at the end of the 90-day claim filing period we have not received a claim for one of these rights, they end up on the list of unclaimed rights. And then we send out a notice and have the public meeting that we're having right now. So this is what was recently done in the 4 subdivisions that are the subject of this public meeting today. So what will happen if no action is taken is that these rights will be considered abandoned, and any right to divert and use water will cease. So what happens now? Is all hope lost if you have a right on the list of unclaimed rights? No. The law allows for objections to the list of unclaimed rights for 90 days following publishing. If you have a right that is on the list of unclaimed rights and you wish to file a claim, you must file an objection with the court together with your water user's claim. Instructions on how to do this are in the list of unclaimed rights. It's important to note that we, as the state engineer's office, can't take your objection. If you're uncomfortable with the process, we recommend that you retain the services of an attorney. A common question at this point is if you can represent yourself, and yes, you certainly can. Although if you represent a trust or a corporation, you must use an attorney. So at the end of the 90-day period and following resolution of all objections, the court renders a judgment, and the rights still remaining on the list of unclaimed rights are abandoned, and the court will also bar the filing of future diligence claims. Let's see. So let's talk about what is in the list of unclaimed rights. The list of unclaimed rights is subdivided into several sections, and we can go through those individually. And so as we advance through these slides, we'll see those. So the first page that we talk about is the title page, and this contains all of the information you or your attorney will need to identify this specific subdivision in the adjudication. First, it identifies the district court. Next, it identifies the general adjudication description. Next, it identifies the judge and the civil number. And then it identifies the hydrologic division and subdivision name. In this case, it's the American Fork South subdivision, which is one of the 4 subdivisions that we're talking about today. And then finally, we have the area and book numbers. Okay. Next, you'll find the notice to water users, and this is, I referenced this earlier, where when I talked about the instructions on filing an objection, and this page right here gives you those instructions, and it's what I referenced earlier, and that is you need to file that objection with the court with your water users claim. Next, you'll see the preamble, what we call the preamble. This follows the notice and covers some of the general information that we are covering tonight. One unique piece of information that is listed in this section is of the list of unclaimed rights is any relevant prior judicial decree and how it was accounted for. Next, you'll see some maps of these areas. I know these are difficult to view in the electronic format. Following the presentation, we're happy to review these boundaries in more detail if you're interested. The American Fork South subdivision runs from about 12th East on the west in Lehigh to about 9th East on the east in American Fork. And the northern boundary is 700 North. The southern boundary goes out into Utah Lake. And then the Provo City North subdivision runs from about 800 north down to about 1900 south, with the lake forming the western boundary and the mountain ridgeline forming the eastern boundary. The Provo North subdivision is bounded on the east by the Provo River and on the south by 800 South and Provo. The other boundaries follow the mountain ridgelines. Finally, the Provo Canyon subdivision is the hardest to verbally describe. It includes all of Provo Canyon from the mouth of the canyon eastward until just below Deer Creek Reservoir, and includes all of the Sundance and Vivian Park areas to the north and south of the Provo River. On to the actual content of the list of unclaimed rights. Once you flip past what we call the preamble and the map, you will come to a listing of the unclaimed rights. In this list, you will find the water right number, the owner of record. An important note is that this may not represent current ownership of the water right. Often water rights are transferred from person to person without anyone updating ownership information with the state engineer's office. So it's important to note that this may be in a prior owner, it may be in the name of a prior owner of the water right or property on which the water right was used. And then finally, it provides a description of the point of diversion and source. Also included in the list of unclaimed rights is an alphabetic index to help you sort through these lists. In this index, you will find some of the same information, like the owner of record, the source of water, the water right number, and the page on which you will find this water right number. You might wonder why you received this notice, since perhaps you don't know anything about a water right on your property, and that may be correct. If you get water from a local city or irrigation company, for example, then it's possible that none of this applies to you. To make sure these adjudications are complete, state statutes require us to make our nets very large. We contact all water right holders and all property owners, registered agents for corporations within the boundary, and councils of record who have filed an appearance in the court. So how do you access the list of unclaimed rights? This can be found on our website. Your individual notice should give you a URL to use. The URLs that are listed here, you can access the various books from these URLs. Also, hard copies can be printed at our office for a fee, and they're also filed at the district court. And we can come back to this slide if we need to at the end, but we'll carry on for a minute and carry on with the presentation. So finally, let's talk about our anticipated timeline. Listed here are the dates on which we publish the various lists of unclaimed rights, together with the accompanying 90-day objection period. These are the dates in which an objection must be filed to not be abandoned. So what's next? We will continue to evaluate claims that were filed, working towards publishing the proposed determination. And we anticipate in late 2021, although the pandemic has definitely adjusted our planning a little bit, but we hope to move through this and evaluate these claims and get towards where we can issue a proposed determination. So those are our goals. Now, let's go on to who you can contact if you have some questions. These are the various contact people that you can contact. My contact information is at the top. Being that we're covering 4 different subdivisions in this public meeting, we have various staff members who are responsible for these areas. If you're in the Provo City North or South, John Bream is your contact for that. If you are in the Provo Canyon subdivision, Nick Yeater is your contact. And then if you're in the American Fork South subdivision, Jory Shelley is your contact. And then we also have some other ways to contact us. We have a general adjudication line. So again, we can come back to this if we need to, but this kind of completes our presentation of a list of unclaimed rights. I imagine we may have some questions. Some of them maybe have been answered through the presentation, but if you have questions, we can shift over to any questions that have come in by email. Yes. We can also take questions directly through the Google Meet. And so let's go that direction.
Mike, at this time, I'd like to mention that we've had some questions come in through our email address. The first question I'd like to address requests an answer on where can we find a list of those that have claimed water rights to assess that all is situated. And so I kind of interpret this question as the antithesis of a list of unclaimed water rights, and the list, or shall I say, there isn't necessarily a discrete listing that we publish, but there is a resource that you can access to find water rights that are being adjudicated or that are included in the adjudication. And this list is publicly available on our website, and it's Mike, if you would like to show on your screen how to navigate to the current ongoing active adjudication effort listings, I think that would be a good idea to show on this at this point.
All right, let me get out of the presentation here. We can come back if we need to, and then I'm going to need to share a different window.
And while you do that, I would like to acknowledge a couple more questions that have come in by email. There is a question that asks whether it reads, "My well has gone dry, and it has been for over 20 years. I suspect this is a result of the growth in the state and lack of planning. What testing has been done on the aquifers?" To that question on what testing has been done, it is probably best answered by saying that numerous entities, both public and private, are very interested in water levels in the aquifers, as well as aquifer properties, other aquifer properties. And there is continual monitoring and testing of aquifers performed by entities such as the USGS and the UGS. Those are geological survey for both the federal and state entities. and they do monitor aquifer levels as well as maintain data on aquifer properties. And private entities, as well as quasi-public entities such as conservancy districts, as well as well drillers, when they drill wells, they sometimes do testing. We'll probably have to do a more detailed answer to this question via email. One more question that I'll let you go ahead and get back to the question on where you can find a list of water rights that are under active adjudication.
Okay, thank you, Gary. I think you guys should all be seeing my screen. This is the homepage for the Utah Division of Water Rights. And I see some of you getting really close to your screen. There are ways to pin that that particular view, and I believe it will make it large for you. But I'll describe what you do. You go off to the left-hand side under Programs and go down to Adjudication. And if you're really skilled with the mouse, you can jump right over to Active Adjudications. You can see I missed it there. Well, let's click on Adjudication and then go to Active Adjudications. There's actually two side-by-side links you can click here. And these are the various active adjudications we have going on in the state. And there's several that the four that we are working with right now are 55.5, 6, 7, and 9. And if you click on this, you will get a listing of all of the various water rights, both unclaimed and otherwise, that are part of this adjudication. Now, when I click on this, I'm currently logged in and I need to stay logged in. So you're going to see a slightly different view than what you'll see right here, because there are a few little widgets and tools that staff have, as you would imagine. But it will look very similar to this. And once this populates, you'll see a listing of all the various rights. And there are ways to sort all of these listed rights according to what's in and out of the boundary and what's unclaimed and when a claim has been filed. There's a lot of information on these sheets. So that's probably the best resource for who asked that question of where the listing of rights that are not on the list of unclaimed rights. This is where you go, and this is an active and living website. Did we have more questions, Gary?
As a matter of fact, we do. One question is related to ownership issues, and it indicates that a person has called and was told that the water right was already claimed, so they should be okay. However, he is seeing that the form shows they didn't sign the paper, the prior owner didn't sign the paper, and he needs to know how to transfer ownership into his name. Can we address ownership transfers briefly?
Yeah. Well, so title updates for water rights are done separately from the adjudication, and they are done. We have a separate title section of the Division of Water Rights. And what you will submit is the form is called a report of conveyance. And many people often they seek out the services of a title company or an attorney to help them prepare those. The reason for that is sometimes title updates can get a little messy. If it's a very straightforward title update, the form is not too hard to get through, but that is what you need to do to be able to update title to the water right.
I'd just like to mention that on the questions that we are receiving by email, we will attempt to answer them in writing, in addition to having addressed them over the meeting live. One more question that came via email was, can you send a copy of your PowerPoint? And what we'll try to do for that is package the PowerPoint and post it to our website, as well as respond to this email with a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation. And at this point, that answers all the written questions we've received. Another answer that has come through on ownership is you may want to ensure that the right was actually claimed and didn't fall on the list of unclaimed rights. You didn't need to be the owner of record to file a claim or an objection. Any claimant that wanted to claim a water right could claim it. My favorite example of this is I can claim the Brooklyn Bridge, but that doesn't mean I own it, but I certainly could try and stake a claim. It may not prevail, but I can claim it. So anybody can claim a water right, and ownership is to be proven separately from claiming it. At this point, I'd like to invite any participants who would like to unmute themselves. Feel free to take the floor if you like. And we'll give a few seconds for participants to join and speak if they like.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mark Walker.
Yeah, if there are rights and they're unclaimed, then who ends up having them? State?
Very good question. Yeah, and so they are, if they are not claimed or taken off of the list of unclaimed rights, they're effectively abandoned. No one gets them. In the state of Utah, all water rights are they're a property of the public, and so they fall back into to be used with all the other various water rights. No one gets them. No one can claim them that doesn't actually have a right to them right now. All of the areas that we're currently adjudicating are fully appropriated. In fact, they're over appropriated. Then what that means is that there's more paper water than there is wet water, and so that water that is currently that would be unused and unallocated will just fall to the next person, basically.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mike, we've had one more question come in via email, which I will reiterate, we'll try to address with a written response, but it serves well to address over the meeting live. And it says, on the list of unclaimed rights of record, it shows the approximate location of an unclaimed water right at a survey location of south 197 feet, west 307 feet from the north quarter corner. It asks, what does north quarter mean? Can you briefly address public land survey system?
I definitely can. So, all right, I am still presenting. I just wanted to verify that. If you're back on our website, you can click the map search link, and this will bring up a map of the state of Utah. And we have a lot of really cool layers that you can turn on. Let's zoom in one of the areas we're talking about. Gary, what was the description that they talked about?
This particular one is south 197 feet, west 307 feet from the north quarter corner. And
what's the township and range?
I'd like to get that to you, and I'm going to look and see if I can figure that out.
With survey descriptions, you typically go backwards. You read them backwards, and that gets you to the point.
The section, township, and range are section 22, township 5 south, range 1 east.
1 east, okay. So that puts us over here. Let me show you a few functions while we're in here. This is actually how you would explore water rights that are, well, either on or off the list of unclaimed rights. And so you can see I've turned on the PLSS system. That's the Public Land Survey System. We can also turn on the adjudication books. And we see the books. These are the books that we are talking about today. And so this appears to be in the American Fork South subdivision. And I think you said it was section 22, Gary?
That's correct.
And it was the north, east or west corner?
The north quarter.
North quarter. Okay. So when you're looking at a standard section, all of the, let me zoom out just a little bit because it got really, really busy all of a sudden. When you're looking at all of the land is broken up into these squares that we call sections. They're usually squares anyway. It can sometimes get a little wonky. But section 22 is this section right here. And we have the four corners. This is the southwest corner. This is the northwest corner. This is the northeast corner. And this is the southeast corner. And then we have the middle of each of the sides of this square. This is the north quarter, which is represented as an N4 on our paperwork. And then this is the east quarter, and the south quarter, and the west quarter. Okay, so I think that's the answer to your question is, so what happens is we measure from one of those corners, or we refer to this as a corner. It's the halfway point between two section corners. It is frequently marked out in the field, and so it's a common survey marker that's used to identify landmarks. So you'll go north or south or east or west from those various points. So I hope that answers your question.
If you want, you can, additionally, this particular water right is, I'll give you a water right number and you can put it in to search it on this map, Mike. The water right number is 55-441.
Okay, and so I'll hit enter and you'll see that it goes down to that water right. And we'll zoom out, and that is the interchange on Main Street, American Fork, where that darn diverging diamond interchange is.
So generally speaking, you can see that that is located approximately south 200 feet and west 300 feet from the north quarter corner.
The north quarter corner being right here, where my cursor is.
I have no other questions that have come in through email. Of course, if they do, we'll continue to try to address them. And the way we'll do that is responding to those emails. And at this time, if we have no other participants that want to ask a question, we can wrap up the meeting.
Let's give it just another minute in the event that you have a question. Okay.
I'd like to reiterate, if I may, that the list of unclaimed rights of record really only contains water rights that are of record. And so being of record means that we already have a record location where it exists and a prior, the name of an owner who would have used it in the past. These are historical records. These are most often, they're most often old records. And so the list of unclaimed rights is a list of rights that did not receive a claim filed on them during the process. And to clear up the question of whether you may have a water right that is on this list, even if you're not a record owner, it might be a former property owner from decades ago at your property. It could be a very old record. And if you have a water right on your property, the easiest way to find that record on our records is to use this map tool, this map server from our website. So that's where we point most people to start looking for a water right associated with their property. The simplest, the easiest facility to use is this map tool to try and open up the map and pan around and zoom down in onto your property and see if there is a recorded right of record on that property. And Mike, it would be appropriate to show that there's a toggle in the layers for points of diversion to toggle the status of a water right, and it serves well to toggle all points of diversion on when once you've zoomed down in, panned down onto your property and zoomed in, toggle all the points of diversion on, including those whose status is lapsed or a terminated status.
Yeah, so I'll do that. I used to live down in Lehigh, and we'll zoom to my house where I used to live, and we'll turn on points of diversion and see what there is. And once I do that, you can see that there are some water rights. And I know we're not dealing with Lehigh right now, but it's kind of beside the point. You could do this anywhere and in any of the subdivisions that we're working on. But you can see that there are various water rights in this area, not on my property, which was 1553, but there is one up here. And so if I was the owner of this property, there would be a strong suspicion that this water right might have something to do with this property. And you can click on this, and it will give you ownership information, tell you about the well, tell you what sort of water right it is, and you can further click through, and it will take you to the database entry for this water right. And then you can go even further under Scan Documents, and these are all of the documents that are on the paper file in our office. So hopefully that helps in your research as you look at your properties. I think there was a question I saw pop up about how to get to that map. I'll do that again. So you start at waterrights.utah.gov, and then on the right-hand side is a link to map search. And you click on that, and it comes up, and there are a lot of helpful layers here, and there's even more under Show More Layers. You might even find that this tool is useful for other things beside water rights. We put a lot of information up there.
Okay. In the meeting chat boxes, I've noticed somebody mentions the property they are on was owned by his family or his wife's family since the mid to late 1800s. And he mentions, we own it now, but we know most of the property has been subdivided and sold off years ago. I'm trying to infer whether there's a question implied there. I think the question would be, how can we tell if there's a water right that we still own? The portion of property that you may still own, if you still own a portion of that property, it could be associated with a water right if water was developed and used on it historically. And if that's the case and you didn't deed the water away, then you may have something to claim if you are continuing to use it at this point. Which brings up a good point about water continuing to be used. There really is, for all intents and purposes, it only makes sense to claim a water right that you continue to use. If you have not continued to use your water right and it is not protected by a filing in our office or for some statutory reason that would protect the water right, then it is not likely to be recognized as a valid water right because of Utah's use it or lose it law, also known as the forfeiture statute. A person who fails to exercise their water right for a period of 7 years may very well have lost that water right or be subject to losing that water right for not using it. And that's why I kind of indicate that it might not even make much sense to fight the fight and claim that water right if you're not using it. And one more text box question that popped up was, you mentioned that you'll have a determination by late 2021. What do you mean by that?
Let me see if I can answer that question. Let me go back to our, to the presentation window. And I'm going to share this, and I'm going to go down to this slide right here. And so I hope that is working correctly. Let me just verify. Okay. Oh, well, that's not what I thought was going to happen here. Let me try again. And so we're going to go like this. Okay. Okay, so during the presentation, I apologize. I got a little flustered. I was getting some audio feedback about partway through, and it really set me off. And so I don't know if I did a very good job determining this or explaining this. This is the adjudication process, and we're at the list of unclaimed rights portion right now. Ultimately, where we are trying to get to is we're evaluating all of the various claims that came in last year after that initial notice to file claims. And that's going to take us some time. There's a lot of water rights, and there's a lot of issues to work our way through. We're going to be working our way through that. The objective is to clarify all of the various water rights and determine which ones are in use, which ones are not, and clarify where they're being diverted, and basically come up with a listing similar to a list of unclaimed rights, but in the case of a PD, or proposed determination, it's a listing of all of the valid rights in a particular subdivision. And that list will be published, and similar to what we did tonight, there will be a public meeting. There's a period where you can object to it if you don't like what we published in the proposed determination. But what the proposed determination is the state engineer's recommendation to the court of what we think all of the various water rights are, what all of their various components are, how much water, what they can be used for, where they get their water from, all of the different pieces that make up a water right. We recommend that to the court. If people don't agree, they can object, and we work through those objections. And ultimately, once all of the objections are resolved, then we end up with a decree. The judge will finally grant a decree and say that these are forevermore what these water rights are, all of these various details and components of the water right. And so that's ultimately where we're trying to get is to define each of those water rights accurately and precisely.
And maybe to more, may I address the question in a different approach, and that is that we are anticipating the timeline will be getting us to a proposed determination by late 2021, but that's a tentative schedule, and we cannot guarantee the future timeline of this effort.
It's subject to a lot of moving pieces.
So we do hope we can make the progress we want to make and publish a proposed determination and file it with the court by late 2021, but that may get pushed out even further. Or it could be sooner if we're very successful and efficient.
I think I saw some more email questions, possibly.
Sorry about this. I think we have actually addressed, okay, here's the question. The question comes from Andrea McAllister, and she mentions that we could just email an answer to this. It seems a little bit lengthy, so
this might be a specific one that would be worth just answering directly.
we'll reserve the right to answer this one via email later on. Thanks for your patience in waiting for us to get you a written response on this, Andrea. I have no other questions that have shown up at this time.
Okay. I think we'll go ahead and make the decision that we are complete here. Maybe one last call if you have any questions. And
as a reminder to all participants, you are always welcome to email us questions to waterrights_adjudication@utah.gov, and our phone number. Maybe Mike, if you have a sec, you can put that last slide up again with our contact address and contact information, so that people can take down our contact information to facilitate their contact with us.
Yeah, give me 1 minute and I'll get that back up again. Present now, window. Okay, well, I find myself wishing I'd put the email address on the prior slide. Let's start with maybe this one. And I'll let you take pictures of the screen or write that down, whatever you'd like to do. So maybe we'll let that sit up there for 30 seconds or so.
And as a reminder, this broadcast was recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel, and it will be accessible through our website from waterrights.utah.gov, where we put our public meetings information. And always, as always, we'll try to be very helpful for anybody that wants to call, and the best line to reach us at is 801-538-5282.
Okay, and I'll advance it one more time. Oh, I think we got a little question. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Let's see here. And we'll advance it onto the email address.
And Mike, if you're prepared to conclude the meeting, let us know.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone taking time out of your evening to join with us on this, and definitely, like Gary has indicated, we're happy to help you out. Give us a call if we can help you. We will help you at any point with this process and answer your questions. And there may be times we tell you that you know, that it might be best to get an attorney, but we'll help you out as much as we can. So again, thank you very much for attending this meeting with us tonight, and we'll end this meeting. Thank you and goodbye.
That concludes our public meeting, and Paul, you may stop the recording.